Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends from the Macau Ricci Institute and the University of St. Joseph, it is really a great pleasure and honor to welcome you for today's forum. We are truly most honored to welcome Professor Stephen Park among us. So give him a big applause so that he is here. So thank you really very much. We have been working on the topic of responsible management since a number of years already. Professor Stephen Park is considered an outstanding expert in business ethics, especially with a focus on Asia and the implementation of business ethics and ESG in South Korea. We also are really very pleased and honored that our Dean, Jenny Phillips, Dean of the Faculty of Business and Law of the University of St. Joseph in Macau, is among us. As everybody knows here, Dean Jenny Phillips is also a very strong supporter of CSR and ESG, not only at USJ, but we could even say in the Greater Bay Area. She's so well connected. So it's almost also a miracle that you are here. Many other colleagues are away. And I see so many other important colleagues and friends where we are really very privileged to have here among us. And I greet all those who join online. We have been working hard during COVID on the implementation of business ethics. In fact, COVID has for some of us been a time of grace to be more focused on certain important issues. And it has indeed also been a major contribution from you, Professor Park, to help us with the Korean translation of the Macau Manifesto. I would think this is the major challenge for us, even at the Catholic University. We train the students for what? Just to get prestige, more money? Or can we really open their heart to issues like social injustice and inspire them for solidarity, subsidiarity, and justice? So therefore, your research has been highly relevant. And so our suggestion for today is the following. We have first your insights, you share your insights, and then we have the so-called local response through Dean Jenny Phillips, and then we all get into debate. So thanks again for being with us, and without further ado, I give over to you, Professor Park. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Father Roslin, for a kind introduction, and thank you all for your coming this afternoon. Today, the main theme of my talk is responsible management education. And I think this is a very important topic, me as a business professor, obviously, but for the entire world, even I think so. So a fairly good portion of my presentation, I would like to just give you my or our institution's journey with this kind of transformation efforts towards this responsible management education paradigm for the last decade and a half or so. And then I would like to reflect on this past of our journey with this very important time. We just passed through 3 years of pandemic, and we are moving into a very dynamically transforming new world. So how can we continue this important journey of responsible management education? And then finally, I would like to explore some of the possibilities of cooperation among universities, business schools, especially in East Asia, who share the same spirit, okay? So I generally follow our Catholic teachings tradition of seeing, judging, and acting, okay? So obviously it's very drastic the changes going on, and how can we respond to this change and keep going on with our mission. So maybe the key word that I'm keep using this afternoon is consciousness, conscious university. Consciousness, I think we have two dimensions of awareness. The first dimension is the question of who we are, not losing our identity, our ontological purpose. And secondly, if we do not lose our identity and purposefulness in our life, we are aware of making footsteps on our world into the right direction. So it's about impact question. So this purpose question and impact question each and every day. I think that's the consciousness. So here you are. Here I am actually on this beautiful campus, and I am very grateful for Father Rossman and Dean Jenny for having this opportunity. And obviously, and me as a Catholic myself, and also me as a person who went to Jesuit University in Korea myself, I very much appreciate this almost more than 500-year-old, Father Matteo Ricci's mission still carrying on at this conscious university campus. And Einstein once said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. So we are facing with big change and transformational era, and we keep losing, we should not losing our consciousness at heart, all right? New challenges, but we keep going on. Okay, so, okay. And also, me as a Korean Catholic, Macau is a special place, and actually the ancestor institution of USJ, actually, the San Jose Seminary, the Father Andrew Kim Tae-gon, who was the very first Catholic priest of Korea, he studied at that seminary. So so it's a very special place for us Korean Catholic. So once again, that I'm very much grateful. Okay, so so my university is Kyung University, which is established in 1949. And obviously it's not religion related, but the founder of the university very much shared a similar spirit, So for example, well, right after the Korean War, no one knows about this Kyung University. Then founder of the university established this the international organization called IAUP, International Association of University Presidents, and they have the very first inaugurational meeting at the Oxford. So there, our founder there, and the great scholars such as Arnold Toynbee and all these people came together and gathered together to reflect upon the way the higher education should proceed. Okay, so a little bit of our history. At the IAUP, the Oxford University, the venue was the Trinity College of Oxford University, and the founder, Dr. Zhou, said, indeed, the signs of times tell us that the age of cooperation has come. The only feasible way in which we can improve the world situation is to enter into the gate of common prosperity on the basis of enlightened self-interest. So by serving others, their well-being, and I can be healthy and happy too. This kind of ecological perspective. So unless we cultivate this sort of virtue among the students for the future responsible leaders, we cannot guarantee with the prosperous and peaceful future of the humanity. So that's the sort of foundational philosophy of our university. So keep going on, and for example, International Day of Peace, which was established in 1981 at the UN General Assembly, and that International Day was established through the the efforts of IAUP and with the national governments, 3 national governments, including Costa Rica. So anyway, this kind of endeavor was there, and this is our university. And so today it's one of the major comprehensive university systems in Korea, and more than 33 student population and so on. It's a big university and fairly highly regarded university, world ranking within 200, and in Korea, well, around top 5 and so on. So the one theme that I would like to point out here is that, well, I truly, highly appreciate our university's foundational value, and I highly appreciate the journey that our university, carrying on, and not losing the identity as a conscious university. So, for example, in one of the campus of our university, which is very beautiful area outside Seoul, which is National Forest Reserve area, we have this very special institution called the Graduate Institute of Peace Studies, and it's solely focused on peace studies. It's a graduate program, 100% scholarship students. And the UNESCO awarded Peace Education Award in 1994. So that's the character of our university. So I think as a conscious university, we should not lose, our epic story, right? As Paul Gauguin wrote down in the very corner of his painting, where do we come from, what are we, and where are we going? So from now on, for the next maybe several slides, let me go over the seeing part, what's going on around the world, okay? And most symbolically with this pandemic. This is the list that I sort of make myself, reading the all different references and so on. For example, great system scientist Erwin Laszlo, as he mentioned, this is something like quantum shift. This is big shift from the old paradigm to new paradigm. If I, reading through the list that I just kind of wrote down as my own research note, I think we are witnessing quantum shift or paradigm shift from the old paradigm to new paradigm. And that is all about shifting from looking at only parts to entire holistic picture, from parts to whole. Shifted from me-oriented, me-only, ego, to my true self, or by finding true self, we can build healthy community. Shifted from fear to love, shifted from dependence, just like childish, dependence to independence and interdependence. Shifted from objective science to process of learning, shifted from hypothesis testing to divine mysteries, shifted from productivity, the industrial era paradigm, to creativity, shifted from efficiency to justice and sustainability, shifted from data analysis to storytelling, shifted from just mere function to design, beauty, and more importantly for our educators, shifted from learning to know, learning to do, to learning to be, and learning to live together. So learning to know, learning to do, it's sort of what AI can do very well, but this is kind of industrial era paradigm of education. And the future is more about learning to be and learning to live together. And actually Lao Tzu, some 2,500 years ago, he already mentioned that best way to do is to be. So we are at the kind of a juncture where we need to abandon the old paradigm of mechanistic worldview to ecological worldview, right? Okay, so what's happening is so-called environmental ecological crisis, climate change, and so on and so forth. We all know that. It's a very hard problem. And also there is social ecological problem, rich and the poor, inequality, and international relations, and so on and so forth. There is yet another very important dimension of ecological crisis, and that is what I call human ecology. Human ecology is, I think, in my understanding, it's all about losing the question of who I am, right? Ontological purpose. But quite interestingly, if we take a look at this ecological crisis, the three important areas, it's all connected, right? I think that's what Pope Francis mentioned as a integral ecology. And how can we fix this interconnected, complex crisis? Well, I think it all starts with human ecology problem. We need to make our healthiness as an ontological being, right? So this is a slightly different graphic, and that is ecological crisis comes from ecological divide. Mostly it's about me and nature, division between me and nature, right? And social divide is division between me and my neighbor. My neighbor is neighbor, contingent worker is contingent part-timers, and not me. And more profound division is me and my true self. There's a division between me and myself. And I can call that spiritual divide. And this is all connected. And I think at the very basis, there is a spiritual divide. So I'm a business professor, but this kind of divided worldview has been kind of strengthened, only strengthened throughout the process we call industrialization. Industrialization is all about division of labor, right? Making my profit at the cost of others. Economists call it externalities, right? It's a pure economic theory, profit maximization, So we are at the very important point of our history, I think. As Pope Francis pointed out in his encyclical, our efforts at education will be inadequate and ineffectual unless we strive to promote a new way of thinking about human beings, life, society, and our relationship with nature. So we need to be away from this divided worldview towards integrated worldview, ecological worldview. For the next 3 or 4 minutes, I prepared a little video. And what does this coronavirus mean? Okay, so this is from the internet, and one Southeast Asian journalist made this script, and I think it's very well written. So let's reflect upon what we've been through these 3 years of After all these years, the 3 years of pandemic, and we can remember, right? We kind of moved through these 3 stages. First, we are busy buying toilet papers, right? Fear zone, and then learning zone, what's going on. But I think important is we need to move into growth zone, right? We need to reflect upon what was going on and moving forward. This cover story of Time magazine during the pandemic was very interesting. If you take a look at the top line, after 2020, the top line represents the CO2 emission, volume of CO2 emission. And after 2019, 2020, for the first time since the Industrial Revolution, it is dropped 7%. But it turned out to be not 7%. It was predicted value, but almost 6%. Actually, it's dropped. What does that mean? I think it means that if human beings are conscious of doing something at will, then we can change the course. So I think I used this graph in another paper. I think this is what our universities can think about. Okay, the vertical axis is about the sustainability crisis, right? Human society and environmental ecology. And horizontal axis is about, I put that as bar. Bar means spiritually beautiful, materially abundant, and humanly rewarding society. That's what we want, right? So as time goes on, right? So since the Industrial Revolution, for example, so-called Anthropocene era, right, began. And it's so based on the divided worldview, human-centric in a negative manner. So it's all about ecosystem, technocracy, consumerism, cultural relativism. There is no universal value, neoclassical order in political economy, and so on. We keep going on. Well, we made some progress, but we reached that kind of system limit. So we are at the bifurcation point where we either move on with the bar, with the more prosperity and abundance and so on, or system collapse. We are at the juncture, bifurcation point. And COVID-19 is so symbolic, showing that, right? So COVID-19 integrates everything. So we either move forward by system transformation, right? New paradigm, from divided worldview to integrated worldview, from ecosystem to ecosystem. And in order to do that, we need consciousness revolution, so to speak. Actually, consciousness revolution is the word used by Ervin Laszlo, the scientist that I introduced. So how can we do that? How can we move human consciousness so that we can? Well, I think the Pope Francis named it as ecological conversion. Ecological conversion. It's almost conversion. Right? How can we do that? Well, I think that's the mission of education and the mission of business education, because business leaders who will be very impactful. So we are at the bifurcation point, and how we educators facing with this and deal with this, whole world, so to speak, depends on us. Okay, so for the last for the rest of my presentation for 5 or 10 minutes, let me introduce my own business schools, Kyung University School of Business, what we've done so far, okay? All right, so the photo is me teaching a freshman class of our university. It's big size, big class. And by the way, we joined UN PRME as an inaugurational member. We are sort of charter member. And for those of you who are not familiar with UN PRME, it's a UN initiative which includes, which invites business schools to be transformed into the responsible management paradigm. Okay, So it was established in 2007, and 6 principles are there, and so on. And today, more than 800 signatories are there. It's a sort of global movement, and this has been my own personal journey for the last decade and a half or so. Okay, so there are 6 principles. Purpose. What is the purpose of business school? You know, mission statement of business school, and it's so in tune with the SDGs, of course. But SDG, only 5 years left for SDG. But after SDG, what will be there? Okay, that's how the question. And the core values of business schools. And then pedagogical methodology. We need to think about new way of educating our students to make this ecological conversion happen. And research subject, and also research methodology. And partnership. I think responsibility should be shared among the schools who share the same spirit. And then dialogue, right? And then we can make the story complete. Okay, so dialogue is important. Actually, Father Ricci's way of communicating with people was dialogue, right? So 6 principles are there. And so in our university, Kyung University, vision is business school, the world-class business based on the humanistic management paradigm, and mission is to educate the next generation of creative and responsible business leaders based on UN PRME, and core values are responsibility, integration, integrated worldview, globalization, going global without losing local virtues, and humanity, and transversity, openness of business education, and inviting stakeholders to participate in our mission of responsible management. So our catchphrase is doing right things right in business. That's our catchphrase. Okay, so if you come to our campus, you can see these mission statements, and he is the first executive director of UN Global Compact. We honored to have him in our campus when we initiated all this project, and for example, we wrote an introductory business book, and it is based on so-called stakeholder perspective, right? Stakeholder perspective. So the responsible business, with the lens of responsible management. Running business is not only solely limited to making profits, right? It's all about taking care of ecology, business ecology, and business ecology involves human beings, employees, business partners, customers, investors. Investors are human beings, right? Institutional investors there, but investors are human beings. And these days, investors like ESG, right? So human being, and general society and general environment. These are all stakeholders. So running business is taking care of the well-being of this ecology, each and every stakeholders in ecology. And what about making money? By taking care of ecology, ecosystem, we can be profitable too. So that's the integrated worldview, right? Win-win, win-win, right? So based on this kind of concept, and some people call it stakeholder perspective of strategic management, and we adopted that idea when we wrote that textbook, and we tried to implement this introductory course based on this course and every functional areas in business education, marketing, human resources, and so on and so forth, in tune with this kind of concept. Okay, so this is the class. This is a freshman class, that introductory class, using that textbook. And we hosted the first Asian Forum in 2010. And thanks to that initiative, we kept having this regional Asian Forum, second forum at Tsinghua, and so on and so forth. But with the pandemic, it was sort of stopped, right? So by the way, I think it is very meaningful to have this kind of movement among the Asian business schools for many reasons, actually. So last part, let me go over rather quickly from here. Okay, so we need to continue, right? So it's not easy, but from my own experience, it is not impossible, I think. And maybe rather it's important to stay on the right track. Maybe outcome is outcome, right? Stay on the right track, that's important. So I think we need three major components to complete this transformation model. The one is people, and it starts with professors, period. And the other is pedagogy, creative pedagogy. And then institution and business school itself. Business school itself should be run with this perspective of the stakeholder the management system. Okay, so let me go quickly here. So professors are important. And I don't have a clear answer to how to do this, but well, from my experience, professors are important. Conscious professor, and putting values in classroom, giving some voice, giving value, some voices in the classroom, not just the technical, training, right? And practice what you preach. That's very important. And of course, professors as a human being, reflection, and as a team, building community of learning and shared vision. That's very important. How can we do this? I don't know. I mean, it's very challenging, but I think that's very critical. Okay. And then pedagogy, this is a Vatican document, vocational business leaders, and it has a very beautifully written down. It is very beautifully written down. Teachers, business professors need to inspire their students to discover the good that is within them and to follow their call to use their professional skills and judgment as a force for good in the world. That's we as business educators' vocation, I think, for the vocation of future business leaders. So, well, maybe 1,001 different kinds of pedagogical methodologies can be presented by those experts in education. But generally, self-reflective learning, experiential learning, holistic system learning, spiritual learning, these may be the keywords which will represent the new ways of delivering this kind of concept in management education. And obviously, these kind of pedagogical methodologies will be different from the industrial era, factory-like, PowerPoint-based lecture style classrooms, right? So it's a big challenge for us. Okay, so for example, I brought my students to Indonesia, and this Korean company, CJ, established this vocational training school together with local and central government in Indonesia. And this company, CJ, has bakery stores all around the archipelago of Indonesia. So they educate this poor section of the Indonesia, these young girls here. And then they are supplied with the good bakers, and customers like this story, and customers become loyal customers, and business is good. Business becomes profitable, doing good, doing well. This is creating shared value project done by the particular company called CJ, or Korean company, and by having by having our students to actually looking at the site and experience the project, and that has some impact, I think. So that's the one example that I can share with you. So finally, institution itself, business school itself should be transformed. So purpose, vision, and values, again, it should be in line with this line of thought. And change management is very important. And change management, it boils down to the leadership, and it boils down to the culture of the organization and organizational learning. Well, one-shot program cannot do everything, right? We keep going on, trial and error, right? And then making some progress, organizational learning. I think organizational learning is very important keyword here. Okay, so and also it is not solely, I mean, the centralized on the professors, but rather different stakeholders should participate. I mean, business sectors, NGO sectors, government sectors should share this change process, so on. It's basically about moving forward as a conscious business school. So, for example, if you go to this website, this is UN PRME website, and we have submitted 6 volumes of so-called sharing in progress, what Kyung University School of Management has done with this UN PRME projects. Okay, so I think writing this report provides us with opportunity of reflection and not losing the direction with this movement. Okay, so that's the part of learning. Okay, so as Father Rosalind mentioned, I fondly remember the translation of Macau Manifesto and into Korean, and I'm very much looking forward to the collaboration, right, between our university and USJ and Macau Ricci Institute, because again, I mean, Macau is such a special place, right, for us in Korean. And also, it's very important for the entire, I mean, this section of the world. I mean, looking at the history of Macau and the current geopolitical situation. Okay, so and Father Rosalind, just for example, as an example, right? As an example, the hunger project, right? How can we deal with this hunger issue? This is SDG number 2, and if Korea can provide some meaningful example, it's the example of DPRK. I think DPRK is going through the world's most severe, the hunger problem. So, and also it's very interesting to me that when it comes to hunger issue, not many companies are showing their projects. For example, ESG reports. If you read the ESG reports, hunger issue is not very well, I mean, represented, relatively speaking. So, I think it may be meaningful project if Korea can provide some the case study of the case study of the project which help the hunger issue in DPRK with the participation of private sector and public sector and NGO sector and so on as an integrated model, right? So that might be the one, the idea. Okay, so let me keep exploring this. I'm showing this slide because it might be the one example, okay, of the future, the collaboration. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so thank you so much, and once again, I'm very happy to be here in this historic place, and I'm very happy to share our school's experience with you, and I'm very much looking forward to the future collaboration among us. Okay, thank you so much.